Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. If you've been a long-time listener, you should recognize our guest. We have Carrie back on the show. I believe it's her third time on. After all these guests, you really just lose track of count. I really had to go back and visually make sure that I was like, yeah, she's been on twice before then. But yeah, she's on here to give us an update on what she's been up to. And yeah, Carrie, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you very much for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely. Well, let's just get right into it. You messaged me saying that you've taken a little bit different of a career path. So what have you been up to and how's that been?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be still competing in bodybuilding next year, but after 10 years competing in bodybuilding, uh, I went into competitive powerlifting for 2 years and uh, had great trainers. And I wanted to get into it because I had built and sculpted my body into, the vision that I had, which is still always a continual process. But I was like, man, I really want to do something, competitive that I can be strong at, that I can see how strong I can get. So then that's really what kind of drew me into powerlifting. I wanted to see how strong I could get, and I actually ended up doing really well. I've got 3 state records in Kentucky and 5 state records here in Florida. And then after my last meet, I was kind of back and forth. I'm like, do I want to go into bodybuilding again? Because that's, really that's near and dear to my heart.
Well, first of all, what were your records? How much were they and what were they for?
In Kentucky, I was master squat and I squatted 340. And the same for open. They kind of went back and forth. And then at that point, this is my first meet. I was 405 deadlift. But then when I broke my records in Florida, 5 of them, 2 of them masters, 3 of them were open. I broke have to think about this one. The deadlift with a 435 deadlift, and I broke the masters record with a 355 squat. And then I also broke the masters record, which is also it translated over into open too, but I broke the masters record in bench with a 225 bench.
Oh. So yeah, she does pretty good in it. I'll just leave it at that, basically.
Yeah. But that was a lot of fun. So after that, I really was just weighing my options, considering like what I wanted to do, what I want to do going forward. And I was a guest at a convention in Kentucky, and I was in the expo area, and there was this booth of this pro wrestling historian, John Cosper. And I got to talk to him a little bit about the history, because to me, that's the people that came before. Their stories were really interesting. And towards the end of our conversation, I says, well, man, I've always loved wrestling, and it's never quite been the right time for me to get into it. And at that point, he's like, I know some people. Give me a couple weeks, I'll get back to you. And about 3 weeks later, he's like, you need to get a hold of this person, and this person will get a hold of this person, and we've got a good school for you. So I have to think about September of last year, I started training. And so I've had over a year of training, and it just kind of took off from there. I've had a couple matches, still working on it because my training was kind of slow. The distance I had to drive at first was pretty long, 3 hours each way, and so then I was really only able to go once a week for that. But as far as the training goes, since then I've just recently moved camps, and I'm with the school right now that's only about 40 minutes away, and they have more opportunities to wrestle. Like they have, you could wrestle 5 days a week if you wanted. You could train 5 days a week if you wanted to.
Don't wrestle 5 days a week, by the way. Anyone out there who's thinking about it, that's crazy. Like you're gonna get hurt within a month at the minimum. So don't do that. I just wanted to throw that out there for everyone.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but the group I'm with right now are are very experienced, and there's a lot of variety, and there's a lot of opportunity. So I'm I'm really excited to be a part of this school. Continental Championship Wrestling in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I told her a little bit before we started recording that I wasn't really that huge of a wrestling fan growing up. It wasn't until like my late teens, early 20s when I realized, well, I had uncles that were really into it, and then I realized being from Minnesota how many wrestlers were from Minnesota because Vern Gagne and he had the big school up here, and that's where a ton of them came from. But I know a decent amount about wrestling now. There's not that many 6 foot tall women that do it. So how has that been? Sort of. Oh, whoops.
There we go. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. No problem. So there isn't that many 6 foot tall women. So what is that like wrestling people that are probably not on your height range?
Well, the first thing I was told is like, you're gonna do a lot more throwing. You're not the one who's gonna be throwing. You're gonna be the one who's gonna be doing throwing. Uh,
No one's
it-
overhead pressing you, I don't think.
no, no. No one's overhead pressing me. I did have a match, however. It was a battle royal where I was supposed to go out. We didn't really stipulate, excuse me, how it was supposed to go out of the ring, but I was supposed to be eliminated pretty early on. And I remember getting pushed up against the ropes, and they grabbed my legs, and I didn't want to go out yet. And so they got another guy over there, and he proceeded to push me. And then they got a third guy over there, and I there was it was game over. I was out, but it was a lot of fun. So yeah, a lot of I do the throwing, um, I do the backup, the bodyguard type situation, the enforcer. Yeah,
You're the China, basically.
yeah, which is I've gotten that comparison a lot, and that's a huge compliment because China to me was an inspiration growing up in many ways, in wrestling and life. Um, and I guess going forward, while that is a compliment to me, and there will be comparisons. I mean, we were both really tall. We were both built. I want to be the next me. I want to have women and girls come up to me and say, "Oh, you're strong and you're powerful," and maybe that'll motivate them to do something in their life, maybe to get more active or just to keep chasing their goals, to keep pushing on the things that they want. Because I've not ever given up on wrestling. I've not ever given up on competitive bodybuilding, which is another thing that I guess we could bring up and talk about as well. Because I'm not done competing yet. I still have some goals to work towards.
Well, you mentioned that you're also still having a future in bodybuilding, but how has wrestling impacted your training just when it comes to the weights?
Not really that much at all. When right now I train 4 days a week, which getting on into it into next year, I'll go to 5 days a week. But I schedule my weight training around school. Like when I have a school night, if I absolutely have to train, it'll be earlier in the day so I can make sure that I'm rested, recovered. But what I have been doing is it's just a rest day or an off day for me is when I schedule my weight training versus when I have wrestling school.
Have you felt sore in areas of your body that you've never felt sore before doing wrestling? Because as much as when I was working out a lot and training a lot, there were times where I do something maybe physical, and then you'd be like, okay, how have I never felt sore in that part before?
Yes, yes, absolutely. When I very first started into it, it took probably about a month or so afterwards because they teach you how to run the ropes and they teach you how to take bumps. And it there was this overlapping time period where I was training in the gym and just started wrestling training where when you run the ropes, they tell you you'll acclimate after time, and I did, but my mid back, upper back was sore, and I had like blood blisters, and it's just uncomfortable. And then to take the bumps where you end up on your upper back, that took some getting used to. But after I got used to it, it's like kind of like a callus of some sort in a way, because it's like, well, it's not that they don't hurt, but it's definitely got to a point where you just work into that place where it doesn't hurt that much anymore.
I never show my palms in this podcast because obviously why would I have to? But just being a baseball player, I still have the calluses there where it's like, and lifting a lot, you have those calluses where your hand just looks so weird. So yeah, I get that. Oh, yep. See, but for me, it's that one right there. I don't know if you can see it, but that's the callus right there on the palm
Yeah,
from. Yep, the one right there. Yeah, that one's. It used to be a lot bigger than it was, but it's died down a little bit. But you can never fully get rid of it. But one thing that I struggled with being I'm 6'3" and I was always the guy that was the tall guy, especially growing up because I was this height throughout like 7th grade. I was that one kid that shot up really, really quick and then stayed the same while other people slowly either caught up or equalized, but was knowing my own strength, being that instead of, tossing around weights, you're at sometimes tossing around people. Was it hard to sort of gauge your strength level so that you aren't like actually hurting people?
that I tell you what, that's still something that I'm working on because to be able to work and to make things look a certain way, there's a certain amount of contact that is there, and learning to gauge the I'm hitting you, but I don't want to actually hurt you in a way. I mean, things happen. Potatoes get thrown. Sometimes potato salads, but it's yeah. That
Have you gotten the chair yet?
I have not been hit with the chair, but I've hit people with the chair. Yeah, absolutely. That's always interesting. I've choke slammed people through tables. Um, that's always a fun time, more so for me than for them, and the audience. That is that always gets a pop whenever anybody goes through a table of any sort, whether they get thrown through it, they get choke slammed through it. Yeah.
There are definitely, yeah, those moments where it's going to happen. So, or you're going to get a good amount of applause for that. So there's that. But what is probably the most shocking thing that you learned about wrestling that you hadn't learned before just by this whole experience?
Shocking. What's the most shocking thing that I've learned so far?
Or unexpected or just anything like that?
Unexpected. And it's not so much shocking or unexpected, but to go into this with at first the appreciation of being a fan and being entertained, uh, learning to change my mindset of being a fan and actually working in it. Changing my mindset from "Ooh, that looks cool" to more so of like, "Okay, how do you do that?" How do you make this work? The in-ring psychology, the positioning, the promos, the more so the unwritten rules in the locker room, and how to promote yourself and how to be respectful. Another thing too, that's something that you see anywhere, but what things are considered to be what do you want to do and what don't you want to do. So it's been an education in the art and entertainment of wrestling.
How are your promo skills? Because as you can tell by me, that would probably be the only thing that I would be very, very good at, just because I would just talk so much that the opponent would just either fall asleep or just, I would annoy I would be a great heel because I would just annoy the audience so much just with the amount of words that could come out. But how have your promo skills been?
They good. They're getting better. They had the first camp I was at. They were really good with drawing like the acting side of it and the emoting side of it, and your whys and your hows, and how you want to structure the promo. So that to me, and it's all together. All of this, I guess, the one thing that I've learned so far, or many things that I've learned so far, is that's kind of like a puzzle, and that there's only maybe some areas that you can focus on at one point, but to be really good, to be that whole complete puzzle, for lack of a better way to say that, is that you've got to have all those areas. And they it sometimes it is an evolution. For me, I like to be able to watch someone and then to see where they are in a year, 5 years, 10 years, see the evolution of their character and how they've started off. But it will always be a work in progress for me. But I'm very fortunate to have had the instruction that I've had so early on.
If there was one wrestler in the entire history of just wrestling that you could have a match with, dead or alive, doesn't matter, who would it be and why?
Not necessarily who you think I would say. It would it would have to be a match in which, obviously there'd be some kind of interest storyline. Um, Gosh, that's a really hard question. Uh, I don't know that there would be anyone in particular that I would be like, oh my gosh, if I had to have a match with this person or that person, that would be like my dream. I feel like however it works for the storyline, however it would make for a really good entertaining match where people are talking about it afterwards, and it generates interest in the wrestlers, it generates interest in the promotion, and everybody benefits from it.
For me, it would be a love triangle between me, Macho Man, and Miss Elizabeth. That would be my backstory right there. I think that would be a pretty good match. But yeah, for anyone who
Yeah,
doesn't know, he's by far my favorite wrestler that's ever lived, just because he's the epitome of a guy that just stayed in character for so long that he eventually just became that character in actual life. So,
he did.
yeah, anytime I see anything about him, I always gotta, stop and watch it. But
Oh yeah,
when you're first getting started in the training, I've always been fascinated. What's the first thing that they teach you when you go into wrestling school?
the very first thing they teach you is how to enter the ring, like the and how to enter the ring in a respectful way is when you get up on the ring and go to enter, always wipe your feet. That shows respect for the ring and the other people, because it's like you don't want a dirty ring. And, to some people, it may be more so like a formality, but it is something that shows respect to the ring, shows respect for, your opponent, for lack of a better way to say that. So that's one of the very first things that I was taught in the ring. And then after that, running the ropes.
It's amazing how those little things are stuff that people would never think to realize. Like, that's some of the stuff that you need to be taught. Because a lot of people just be like, "Oh, you just walk up to the ring and you just jump in." It's like, no, there's a formula that you kind of gotta show respect. And that's the one thing that I like a lot about wrestling is just the sort of underground stuff that only the wrestlers know about, like the whole respect angles and how it's all just about putting on a good show for the audience and entertaining people, but also showing respect to your opponent and all that stuff. Which, yeah, it's so fascinating to me. But just in your entire journey through this sport of wrestling, I mean, what has that been like? Being that when I've talked to you the other two times, obviously you went from bodybuilding to then powerlifting, and you're still doing bodybuilding, but now you're doing wrestling. Just to see you sort of evolve and do all these things, what has that been like to just anytime you might just like step back and just look at it? What's that been like?
Oh, that's a really good question. To step back and to look at what I've done so far, to me, it's been a continual work in
I just
progress.
got to interrupt, especially since I've seen your before photos that you posted, like before and after. So to go from that and then all this other stuff that's happened too, you have had quite the journey.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey, and yet I knew going into it that it was going to take some time to get to, and I want to say to get to where I wanted to go, but yet there's always these like little goals or little milestones along the way that I've been able to get to, like, from the very beginning, before any weight training, where I was overweight and I had this vision in my head of this physique I wanted to build. And I knew in my mind, I'm like, if I just keep at it and I have the right instruction and I don't give up, I know I'm going to get there. I know I had that faith in myself, that faith in the process, that, like they say, that it's going to happen for me. And it has, and it still continues to be a work in progress. But to me, to be able to look back, and there's some photos that I just, it seems like a different lifetime. It definitely seems like sometimes when I look at the photos of myself, I know it's me, but there's a disconnect of knowing that, okay, this is where I worked from, and this is also a continual work in progress. But to me, it's like I've had some opportunity to look back and appreciate, but it's more so like, all right, what's my next goal? What am I working towards next? And even when I wasn't prepping for a show or a meet, or um, or an event or anything like that. It was like I think that's where people fall off if they don't have an immediate goal in front of them. They just tend to kind of drift. But to me, especially going back to bodybuilding to reference that, it's not the physique that you work towards when you're actively prepping. It's how you do things 365. It's how you train and you eat when you're not actively prepping for a show. It's the posing practice. It's everything that goes into, uh, especially if you're going to compete, that physique that you want to present on stage. And early on, I didn't really talk much about my transformation because I had a goal of competing. I guess diving into the bodybuilding a little bit
No,
more.
absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I I I just knew I wanted to transform my physique, and I was inspired by people like China. I even was inspired by people, well, Sigourney Weaver and oh, what's her name? Um, Sarah Connor.
Linda
Sarah,
Hamilton.
yes, Linda Hamilton. Thank you. I was inspired by their physiques too. Like there's one
I will
scene.
say Linda Hamilton for like I've at least had 2 dozen guests that were inspired just by her alone. Like she's the big one from especially Terminator 2. Yeah, obviously.
The scene where she's doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
That was like that is awesome. And also,
I saw that and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, can I do that with my bed? Like I want to see if like I can put it sideways and stuff like that. But it wouldn't work out. My bed had plastic bars instead of like the regular ones. So I was like, yeah, I'd probably break it. So I was like, yeah. But there I can guarantee there were probably hundreds of people that were like, can I do that with my bed?
I know, yeah, I was like, well, then you see all the fail videos with the people with the pull-up things in their, their bedroom doorway, and ouch. So, but
I've
another one,
broken one time, and I don't want to talk about that anymore. But I will just throw that out there. That I broke one time when I was doing it, and my back, ugh, that hurt. That was like a week where I just couldn't really even move because I landed just straight on my back with just that thing. It was horrible.
oh my goodness. So yeah, that sucks. But
Thanks for bringing
huh,
up that memory, Carrie. I really appreciate
Linda
that.
Hamilton, yeah. But another one too, I wanted to mention too, and this references back to a TV series on Fox like 30 years ago now. Ooh, 30 years ago. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. And it ran one season. It was on Fox, and there was a couple episodes in. Corey Everson, Miss Olympia, was a guest on there, but I didn't know her as Miss Olympia. I just knew her as she was this female blacksmith who she was just beautiful and she had this wonderfully developed muscle, and she was just like this symbol to me that was strength and beauty, and I'm like, that right there, that's what I want to build. And so in my mind, those were my uh, archetypes, my blueprint, for lack of a better way to say it. And I just built from there. Really, I just kept that in mind. Of I didn't necessarily want to look exactly like them, but because everybody has their individual bodies, their balances, everything about them that makes them a little bit different. But I knew that if I kept going, that I could build something like that, and to even to look back on some of my photo shoots, some of the earlier stuff, and I was like, it wasn't that bad then, but it's like one of those things where seeing yourself every day, sometimes it can be hard to see the changes, and to have other people say to me like, wow, you've really sharpened up, or your shoulders gotten bigger, and I can tell after time, through comparison pictures and videos and stuff like that. But yeah, the whole journey through all of this, getting into it, and then you know competing for a while, and then getting into powerlifting, and then finally being able to have the opportunity to train and learn, and um, to be involved in pro wrestling, and to get the opportunity to perform in front of people, whether or not it be 6 people, 60 people, 600, 6,000, however many it's going to be. It's really a dream come true.
Well, you point out about not being able to see the changes when you see everything daily. I have a personal story with that. So when I was in my teens, my mom, I think, lost like 30 or 40 pounds in a span of probably like 6 months or something like that. But because I saw her every day, I didn't even know that she had until my dad finally pointed out, just like, how many times have you guys like actually looked at your mom and like complimented her because she's like lost weight? And then I finally looked at her and I was like, wait, she actually has. Like, but if he would have made that comment, I wouldn't have known. Like, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference just because you see her every day, and it's like, which is those little incremental changes when they add up over time. It's hard for a lot of people until they might like take a step back and look at it. But do you incorporate posing at all into your wrestling routine? Because a lot of times, especially when I've talked to bodybuilders that go into that really helps out with their whole persona and wrestling, just having that whole background of being able to present yourself like that on stage as a bodybuilder.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. I have a front double bicep and a lat spread, and just like have a couple crab shots, and just anything that makes me look big and powerful.
Hey, you can't honestly go wrong with that. But just with being that you are still going to be doing shows, maybe like next year, like you were saying, how do you plan on maintaining wrestling while being on prep? Because I'm sorry, but I would not want to be wrestling when I am like a certain amount of time out from a show. Like that does not seem like something that's doable.
No, no, I that you're correct, very much so. I do know of a couple female wrestlers who have prepped for and competed. Now, the one gal I know, if you don't, I'll name names because
Yeah.
big time respect for both of them. Camille, who,
Oh, yep.
yeah, she was NWA World Women's Champion for like I think she's the longest reigning champion there. It was back in 2020. Now, granted, a lot of things were shut down, but she was in wrestling that was scaled way back, if not, mostly stopped. She compared for a show, but there's another one, Jordan Grace. I think she wrestled all the way up until her show, which props, major props. I've prepped and competed for shows for almost 11 years now, and there's got to be a point to me personally. Now, for her to do it, that's one thing, but I know for me, it's gonna be maybe 3 weeks out. Where I'll know this way in advance, so when I start getting bookings, I'll be like, okay, for these 3 weeks, I've got to focus on that final you know stage of my prep for then. So about 3 weeks out from whatever, excuse me, 3 weeks out from the show, I'll just be like, I've got to back off the wrestling a little bit there and make sure that I don't get hurt, I don't get bruised up, banged up. So yeah, that's how I'm going to do it, at least for this next year.
Which ironically, I would pay a decent amount of money to see you on peak week trying to like toss and throw people and do that whole thing. That would be quite the sight to see. I think ironically that would be like the biggest selling event because like watch this woman who looks so insanely shredded and ripped like struggle to do stuff that we wouldn't expect her to do. So I think that would be awesome too. But yeah, 3 weeks out, that seems good to me because yeah, you mentioned Jordan Grace and I remember following her on Instagram and seeing that and I was just like, that's a level of psychopathy where I don't even want to, get near that because it's like, good God. But again, more power to that. That is just
Exactly.
awesome. But have you found what is that feeling like going into the ring as opposed to stepping on stage? Are they similar or are they different?
There is a similarity. Like when we're lined up backstage before a bodybuilding show, um, well, especially when you come out in groups for the comparisons, that's it's very different because everybody's in a group together. We're all out there. There's no action per se. But then when you get to the individual routines, to me, that's more like you're going out to entertain. There's always a little bit of excitement and a little teeny bit of nerves, that I've noticed that are similar. But also do have a theater background too, and getting into the character, getting into that mindset when I'm about to head to the ring as far as a match goes. That is similar to right before I'm about to step on stage for a routine in bodybuilding.
What is the worst? I'm not gonna say like injury or thing that's happened to you in the ring that like has actually resulted in like physical pain. Like, what would you say is probably the worst, either like bump or something that's happened to you in the ring?
Oh my goodness. I thankfully have never been hurt to the point where I had to take a week or two off. I did have a situation about 6 weeks ago where I was working with a very, very green, very new person, and uh, we were going over a move called a sunset flip. And I was giving this person a sunset flip. And it's just, one of the things I had about 10 months or so at that point, and they had just started. And I'm like, everybody's got to learn. And I was a little bit nervous at first, but when I went to give this person a sunset flip, I'm going to take responsibility. I did not jump as high as I should have. So when I jumped and I went to grab them to roll through, there was a couple things that they didn't do. There was a couple things that I didn't do. And instead of them rolling back so I could essentially roll them up like you do in a sunset flip, they just sat right down on my head. And there was such immense pressure on my nose and my jaw. It was like it didn't happen for very long at all. There was maybe a second or two, but I was just kind of sitting there going, all right, my nose is going to break. My jaw is going to break. This sucks. And for about the next 2 or 3 days, like, my nose hurt, my jaw was really sore, but I'm like, I got really lucky, because that could've gone really, really wrong, and that's another thing too is the training, learning to do things right and to fundamentally get those moves because 'cause you're gonna work with a whole bunch of different kinds of people. They may give things differently, you give and take things differently, and, just being able to learn the fundamentals and get those down solid so that you can work with anybody and there is a certain degree of, okay, I know, what's going to happen. I know how to take this, or maybe if you take a move a certain way, or uh it's the learning to be safe. It's protecting yourself, protecting your partner.
That's the thing that irks me when people always say, "Oh, wrestling's fake" and stuff. And I say, "No, it's scripted entertainment." But it's like you can also get hurt doing ballet. You can also get hurt doing. I mean, it's like there's still the injury part, and there's still stuff that can go wrong doing really any type of performance and entertainment. So whenever people say, "Oh yeah, it's fake," it's like the injuries are not fake, but it's like it's yeah. That's my whole. I mean, we could talk for 10 hours about that whole topic and stuff like that, and be like, yes, I guess technically it's fake if you're actually like making bets on who's going to win and if you're like actually treating it as like a competitive sport in the fact of like a team sport or something like that, then yes, but again, I'm already walking deadly into that tangent and I could see myself just going on a tangent. So I'm stopping it before all of a sudden we look at the clock and it's like we've been talking for 9 hours now and I haven't stopped. So I got to shut that down right now, but I do got to ask because I messaged you this before time. Monday nights, we're recording this on a Monday. It's my back and buys night. And you are very blessed, I'd say, in the arm department. So what does an arm workout look like for you? Because I am trying desperately to get mine to grow up. And any advice that you have. So what does an arm day look like for you?
Oh, an arm day. It depends. Um, Sometimes I will do straight sets of, I'll either start off with biceps or triceps. Um, some of the exercise for biceps I like to do are like a seated bicep curl where my arms are just angled out and still at my side. I'll do like a preacher bench, and usually finish off biceps with some kind of like a hammer curl. Whether or not sometimes I do it actually on the cable. I'll do a hammer curl on the cable, or do them with dumbbells. Um, and then as far as triceps go, I'll do like a close grip bench. I'll do overhead dumbbell.
I saw when we were doing overhead with the machine and you were putting up some serious weight on that. So I was like, okay, yeah, that'll do it for you, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, those kind of exercises too. They really they put the meat on your arms. You just got to look to work them like that. So, but yeah, things like that. Skull crushers. I'll do as well. And a lot of the time, I like to mix it up because it's not always like training biceps and then training triceps. Sometimes I antagonize where I'll do exercise with biceps and then with triceps, and then just mix it up. There are some fundamental moves that I'll always do, like a barbell curl or like a tricep press down. things like that, like the essentials, or so the bread and butter movements, just the not trying to complicate things, but just working those solid foundational, for lack of a better way to say it, those moves, those exercises.
Trust me, we all know some of those people where it's like every single workout has to be completely different from the week before, and they have to mix up everything. You're like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It's picking up a weight and doing stuff with a weight. It's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel when clearly it's worked for people. Now, obviously, yeah, mix it up every once in a while, but I'm talking about some of these guys at my gym where it's every week has to be a new, different, complete set of moves and stuff. And it's more power to you. I mean, you can't really change how people work out and train, so you just gotta let them, roll with it. But yeah, so I will include some of that in my work. I do a lot of. I was just the basic bro in college where it would just be curls and other variations of curls. That's basically all you get on, and triceps too, because I found out that's 75% of your arm. Nice triceps. It really hides it hides maybe inefficiencies that you might have in biceps. So it really does help out in that area. But when it comes to next year and competing, do you have any dates in mind of when you think you're going to compete, or are you just still waiting and seeing?
I do. I'm going to compete earlier in the year. I'm going to start my prep probably mid-January, and I've got a show here in Florida that I've already got my eyes on, southeastern USA, and that's going to be mid-April. I don't know that they have a date set yet, but last year it was in mid-April. So then after that, there is another show, uh, Junior USA, which is funny because 10 years prior, I competed at Junior USA in the bodybuilding division. And so to come back and compete at that same show again, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's like coming home. I guess we'll have to have another
Yeah.
interview after that is done. But so with that first show, the goal is national qualification, and with the national qualification is then that next show, Junior USA, and that's, to me, that's always been a goal of mine since I started competing. Is I wanted to earn my pro status, and I feel like I'm close. I feel like I I probably could have done that 3 or maybe even 4 years ago. But to be honest, it was a financial thing for me. I competed earlier in the year, and it just got to be too expensive. I didn't have any financial backers, so it was just like, how can we do the most with the least? I had a couple people who I got to know in the industry, and they helped me out with suit and tan, and most of the times I did my own makeup and stuff like that. But going into this next year, if I can partner with some companies, that would really help out a lot. And I think that there would be a great synergistic energy in there. It wouldn't just be me. I feel like I have a story that would really be something that people would follow. And that's another thing that I've noticed too, is that if you follow somebody, if you enjoy them, for whatever reason, whether their physique or their performance and stuff, it's like, okay, well, what are they into? Oh yeah, they're the ones that do that pre-workout. Or they're the ones that do that protein powder. The stuff like that. So
One
yeah,
plus you have a unique look too. Not too many people look like you even in the bodybuilding field. So it's definitely for anyone out there who's looking to, sponsor. That's definitely a plus right there. But we've, like you said, it's been almost 3 years, or it might even be more than 3 years. I don't even know. I'll have to check. Since we did last have you on, what's one area of your physique that you think you've improved on the most? And what's one area that still to this day you're just like, if you had one wish, you could make it better?
that's also another really good question. Through the powerlifting, my back has gotten better. It's gotten more dense, which is something that the judges had given me feedback on when I was competing before. They're like, You've got everything there. You've got the structure. You've got the shape of it. We want your back to be more dense." Definitely, it's become more dense. It's become more muscular. My abs have gotten better. That's been something that's been difficult for me too. Is a combination of, that was where I held a lot of my weight when I was overweight, and so my skin is stretched, and I still have stretch marks. That's another thing too. I think people assume that they see pictures of me and they're just like, "Well, where did it go? Where did your skin go? Where did your stretch marks go?" I'm like, "No, it's still there. It's gotten a lot better, but if I sit a certain way or stand a certain way or just fold myself a certain way, it's like anyone, even if they're just like in super ripped condition, if you sit a certain way or if you stand a certain way, your body's going to naturally fold. So, there are ways to do that. If there was one area too that I would say that I'm still struggling with a little bit is, oh gosh, I would say my glutes, to be honest. My stomach and my butt are are two areas that I wish, that I guess you would change it if you go back in time. Like I would have never gotten overweight, but because I was overweight, I had this goal, this obstacle to overcome, and my story wouldn't be what it is today if I didn't have that. So, and it has gotten better, and it's been to me, it's like you see some people get into it, and depending on where they are physically, if they were in pretty good shape before they started, if they were never overweight, then they've got the better skin. Um, for me, it's been little improvements, but over time, they've really made a big difference. So then, at this time when I prep for and step on stage again, I my back's going to be more dense. I'm definitely going to be bigger. I'm going to have actual deep abs because that's one thing that was commented to me earlier on is I really didn't have abs or I had shallow abs and learning to work your abs correctly. I think there's, if I can tangent here for a second,
Yeah.
there are people who do like the sit up crunches. Well, there's a way that you can do them that actually works your abs, or there's a way that you can do them that works your your hip flexors. And for the longest time, I had these just. I mean, I still get them too because I know how to work them, but I just had these big, like my sartorius in my leg. It just looked like a rope going down my leg, but then I had no abs. That's because I was working my hip flexors and that. But yeah, definitely thick abs, good back, legs, and then my glutes will be solid. My glutes will be solid. It is what it is. I think there's only certain things that you can improve and change, and um, also sometimes it's about the posing too. Sometimes you look at someone and go, "Wow, they're really good in this shot or that shot," and we learn to play your strengths.
Well, and this is a somewhat random question, but we mentioned like Linda Hamilton, like doing pull-ups on her bed and stuff like that. Is there like a random feat of strength that you see either on social media that you wish that you've tried but you haven't tried yet?
You've got really good questions. Um, oh gosh, a feat of strength. Anything that involves like a lifting a platform or not necessarily overhead, but deadlifting a platform where you've got like four, five, six people on there. Um, or you know what? Now that I think about it, pulling a semi, like actually getting in there and actually just hooking myself up and seeing how I weigh against that. Also, ooh, at the Arnold,
Yeah.
they have the wheel of pain.
Mhm.
I've always wanted to try that, and maybe I can speak it out into the universe here, and I'll get that opportunity. But I always wanted that.
I was gonna say Cory Butler, a guest I've had on multiple times. She's a strong woman and she does pull semis and stuff like that. And I don't understand how and why, but the moment that you mentioned that, I was like, yeah, that's Cory Butler. I give it. She's similar to your build too. She's about just as tall. So I think you kind of got to be. I mean, I don't know if I'd be seeing like a 5 foot tall person really do that, especially. So I think that's your height might have a little bit of a help in that, but. I saw recently too that and I will say for mine is I see the video of like people doing like pull-ups, but it's like someone's arm that's like extended out and they do it on. The only problem with me is that I'm afraid that I would like break someone's arm trying to do that, especially being
Oh,
that I'm a bigger. Yeah, when they have their arms out like that and then someone's doing a pull-up like on their arm, like
oh
that's a
yeah.
big challenge. It's a couples challenge that a lot of people do where the girl does it on the guy, but like I would want to be the person doing the pull-ups. I don't want to be the person holding on. So like, but I was afraid that I might break someone's arm like if I did that because I'm a pretty big guy. So that's the only fault there. But yeah, that's a challenge that I see, and I was like, okay, that's fascinating how people do that. But yeah, so
That'd be fun.
yeah,
That would be fun. Absolutely.
that
Oh
would
yeah.
be it for me. But I saw recently that you were at the Olympia, and I've never been to the Olympia, and I am planning on going to there next year. No official like yes, for sure I'm going, but it's in my plans for next year. So what has your experience been like at the Olympia, and just what's that whole atmosphere like? I've always been fascinated just to hear what that's like.
It it is there's a vibe and an energy there, because there's lots of different sports there, lots of different people, seminars, classes, just, the expo itself. I gotta hand it to the Olympia because if you had to compare expos of another big fitness expo, like say the Arnold, it has gotten to be so big, it is overwhelming. Like, have you ever been to the Arnold Expo like on a Saturday?
No, but I have seen videos of people doing it, and I just get claustrophobic just even seeing it.
Mm, it is. If you want to go anywhere on a Saturday in the Arnold Expo, there's no given amount of time, as far as that goes. But the Olympia Expo, I could move around very freely without, without being encumbered by people, and it just, it gets to be so busy, and you just kind of fall in the stream of other people. So anyway, but as far as my experience with the Olympia, the people that you see walking around from different areas of like the entertainment industry, like this year, one of the official ambassadors was Batista.
Oh wow.
I did not get to see him, but he was one of the official ambassadors at the Olympia.
I knew The Rock was a couple years ago, and then yeah, they always get someone like that in there, and I always that's fascinating. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. But the Olympia itself is just this wonderful, energizing, exciting experience. They've always got some kind of like at least a half a dozen challenges on like how many deadlifts you can do with so much weight in a minute, or how many pull-ups you can do. There's a lot of the times they have like some kind of military challenge there as well. But there's something for everyone. There's just people that you can talk to there, ask questions to. There's always like long lines for things. I want to say, let's see, Phil Heath had a really long line, and there was, ooh, it was Michael Hearn, Diamond Dallas Page, and there was another guy who I can't remember his name, but I'll remember it, after we get done with this probably. They had a really
That
long
always
line.
happens, and it pisses me off more than anything, and it happens to me too every single time. Yeah.
Like, oh,
It's literally
it's
like there have been times where, like the night of when I'm sleeping that night, I'm like, God damn it, that was the answer too. That's what it was, and then yeah,
yeah, yeah, but their line was it like wound around different booths and into the aisle and stuff, and it's like kind of falling back to going, who is this line for? Oh, all right, that makes sense. But yeah, just it is a big, wonderful, motivating, inspiring. It's a networking experience there too. It's just the Olympia is great. It's just I can't wait to go back again next year.
we'll tell people though, bring a gas mask because good God, that tanning smell. I thought it was bad enough at regional shows, but at the Olympia, dear God, people. So masks, that's the only place I might want to mandate masks is at the Olympia because who knows what that's gonna. I went to my first bodybuilding show like 2 years ago. Well, first of all, this is something that I can also share with you, being that we are on the taller side, is that how hilarious it is to then like actually stand next to some of these competitors. And like I could rest my elbows on their heads, and then you're just like, I know we're not supposed to laugh at that, and it's not funny. I'm saying it's funny because it's just you wouldn't picture that for a lot of people that might be like into bodybuilding, that there's some of them are like literally 5 feet tall, and then you meet them and they're like super jacked, but they're like very short, and you're just like, it's fascinating to see. I will say that I'm trying to save myself right now because I already dug myself a little bit, but yeah, it's fascinating to see because it's not of the normal. So yeah, being in the Olympia, I would be really surprised to see like some of the bigger guys too, and being like, oh, you're because some people they just do stuff with their photos too where they make themselves look a lot taller than they are, for being completely honest. But yeah, so that's the one thing that was shocking to me the most, that and the spray tan, which By God. But I ask you this question every time you come on, but I ask it about bodybuilding. I'm going to switch it up now and ask it about wrestling. If there was one thing that you could change about the sport of wrestling and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would change?
One thing that I would change and everything would go along with it. Ooh. Um, I think there were a couple things, but one of the
You can do
things,
more than one.
I would. This has to tie in more to like social media and how social media has taken over. Like some of the things I've shared with you, and obviously whoever's going to listen to or watch this, there's a certain amount of just the way that you are and protecting the business. And I think there's too much out there nowadays with social media where everybody has to know everything and everybody has to be in everything, and this out there and that out there, and there's people putting videos out there of just basically giving things away and taking away some of the mystique of it. I think it would be more so like if you're going to uh, be performing, if you're going to have that wrestling persona, that it should be well, it could be one of two ways. Either just straight up post in your character, like I know of a couple that still maintain that all the time. Or I would also, let's see, I
I'm
would.
just saying I couldn't imagine the Ultimate Warrior having an Instagram account and posting. I don't know. I don't want to see what those posts would be like if he was in character.
It would, yeah. It
Or
really
Macho
is.
Man too, that would be or even Hulk Hogan. Like if they all posted in character, first of all, it would be absolutely hilarious because I don't know what they would post. But second of all, like I think it would just be like it's so hard to have a social media presence like that when you have some of those characters that are just the more outlandish ones.
Yes, and there's some too. Like, do you follow Mick Foley?
Mhm.
So I like his. Cause you know, I would say most people like Mick Foley
Yeah.
or one of his characters, but the things that he posts are memories or current things that are going on, or hey, remember when, and they're just a lot of fun. A lot of fun stuff because he's had a long and just an amazing career, and he's still out there making appearances and doing his thing, and so that to me is like an exception. But when it first started off, it was like the territories, and then it was like the cable, and now it's come into the social media era where some of the mystique is gone, but it's more so too, you control how it's presented as well to yourself. Like right now, I'm still posting under my given name, but I know at some point it's going to be more focused, towards my wrestling persona as well. I just don't want to necessarily confuse people. You could always figure out or find out someone's real name, but yeah, I think that's one thing I would change. I would make it to be more of either you post in character or just not so many things are given away, or that's because that's part of the mystique to me. That's part of what makes it intriguing is these characters that you learn to hate or you love to hate, or you cheer for them even if they're losing. It's like, oh man, he lost, but I know he's going to get it next time. Or the next thing you know, there's a person that they're hanging out with the person that they beat the crap out of them, or the next day they're posting they are eating at a fast food restaurant, just random stuff, and it's like it kind of takes some of it
I
away. So
blame those shows like that stupid. I watched one episode of like that WWE Diva show or something like that, and like they're all friendly and stuff like that, and going out and doing stuff, and you're like, you wouldn't see anybody back like 30 years ago doing any of that crap. Like they would have to hide. Like they would have like a private, probably locker room where they would drink and stuff like that, maybe after the show or have card games or something like that. Like they weren't allowed to show that to the public. So I agree with that too, where it did sort of ruin a lot of the mystique about the sport where it's like, and that's with a lot of sports too, where the one thing that I hate the most is especially a huge NFL fan where I see the players like shaking hands and high fiving after plays, like with players from the other team, like when they get up and stuff like that, they like pay each other in the back and stuff like that. It's like go back to the old days when like you generally hated your opponent and like didn't want to see them succeed. But yeah, so
yeah, yeah, with that tension, I think that makes it interesting, that conflict
yeah,
or the illusion of conflict rather.
maybe you should go to your bodybuilding show in character as your wrestler and see how that
Do a promo before.
goes. Yeah, no, yeah, they do some of those interviews like before and after, and just shoot a promo basically just as your like challenge all the that would be yeah, that would be
It's a good one.
that would inject a little bit of flavor into the sport, which I think would be hilarious if like everyone had like a character that they did like and like when they were posing it was like a character yeah, that would be. I honestly think that would be a good idea, but
Well, they did try to do something like that years ago,
okay.
the WBF,
Oh, okay.
where they made out the bodybuilding into this presentation, this show, all the added the drama and the theatrics to it, and that didn't go very far.
I'm
Far,
sorry, I
far.
apologize to anyone here listening, but bodybuilding isn't that dramatic if we're being completely honest. Like there's not
Oh,
there's
supposed
nothing
to
that you can really
listen.
make. Yeah, exactly. The most you'd be like, oh my god, she stole my spray tan or something like that. Like that's the like there's not that much that you can make dramatic about bodybuilding. Yeah, so
Well, and you've seen the reality shows too, where especially if it's something that you've done or something that you're interested in, and all of a sudden they make this like big dramatic edited moment where it's like she has to choose between this and between this, and I'm like, it's a red suit or a blue suit. And you're acting like it's the end of the world. Just something simple like that, where they insert that drama. So that's not. I don't like so much of that manufactured drama, but I did appreciate what Vince did with the WBF when he was doing that, because he inserted that theatrics, that dramatics into the show, because it can't be that unless you're going there straight up to appreciate the physiques, unless you're doing something like a routine. Yeah, or fitness. Oh my gosh, fitness is always that's another story
those
too. That's story
psychopaths.
time. They're
Yeah,
show lean
let's do
and
one
they're
arm
doing
push ups while we're severely dieted down. That's fun. That's
yeah.
whenever I have a fitness compare on, I just tell them I was like before we even get started, I just tell them, listen, I know that you have some mental problems, but we're going to try to hide that for this next hour here, okay? Because you compete in fitness. So, but like, again, you have my utmost respect and appreciation, but by God, why the hell are you doing this to yourself? But yeah, so I always have
Oh,
fun. I have fun with them like that. But to honestly, seeing their routines when they're that depleted, it's one of the more impressive things that you will see in anything related in the fitness field.
absolutely. Respect for them, like I said, to be that show lean and to be doing the gymnastics, and it's like, shoot, I want some water and a
Yeah.
shower and a nap.
Mhm.
I that's what I want.
Yeah. Absolutely. So when we do talk to you again, obviously we can have you on again after your shows, but if let's say like even like it was a year from now, where would you like to be at in your wrestling? Where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? You kind of already mentioned that you had that one show as your goal to qualify for, but for wrestling wise, where would you like to be at a year from now?
A year from now, I would like to be wrestling regularly on the indies, just to be able to make the connections and see how far I can take it as far as the indies go. And then I have a couple of, uh, well, there's one organization that is bigger that I would really like to make it into. But then, I mean, I'm just, like I said, speaking of the universe, I would like the opportunity to be able to work for the biggest wrestling company of it all, the WWE. I would like to be able to get that opportunity to work for WWE, or even not even. I don't mean to downplay that, but like AEW as well, where I'm out there. I'm able to entertain in front of thousands of people, and to get to be able to just be the symbol for people too, like the entertainment, or to also to be able to do meet and greets and events where I can actually shake people's hands, take pictures, and just kind of be like how it was for me when I was, and I'll always be a fan in some way, shape, or form. But to be able to meet those people that you've watched on TV for years, and just to be able to be like, it was because of you I believed in myself. It was because of what I saw you go through, or what I was able to accomplish. Because I'm like, you know what? She came from a position where she was like way far in the deficit, She's able to get herself to a point where it's like people assume that I've never been overweight if they've never seen pictures of me. And even if I do show them pictures of me, they're like, "That's not you." I'm like, "It's me. I was there for that picture." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy journey that you've been on, and I really appreciate you having on and to share it. And again, you guys, everyone go and follow Carrie. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. Buyer beware, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies. But again, Carrie, it was just an absolute delight to talk to you and give us an update. And if you're ever up in the Minnesota area doing wrestling, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to come and see you wrestle, because that's, supporting the guests is probably my favorite thing to do. But again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you are very welcome, Ryan. It's always fun to me to be able to chat with you and to let you know what's going on, let everybody else know what's going on as well. And I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And again, everyone, go and check her out on Instagram. And again, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.